Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Daily Refinement Mastermind Call. This happens Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. through 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we discuss best practices on improving your reselling process so you can make more money. Today's topic, before we get into people's specific improvements, is what is the true cost of reselling? So I just spent the weekend with my family. I just got back. I was one of those people who flew Southwest, so flights were canceled. It was pretty interesting. On Sunday, when I was going down to San Diego, it was an 8-hour flight delay for a 1-hour flight. And they didn't know where the captain or crew was. This was on Sunday before they even canceled 6,000 flights the next few days. So there was already a weird infrastructure thing on Sunday before they had the massive cancellations. They didn't know where our crew or captain was, and they were separate. So eventually the crew came, eventually the captain came, and then we arrived 8 hours later. And then yesterday we took a rental car back. Very interesting. So the reason why I ask is, or I'm bringing this up is, when you spend time with other people, you get to see what their time is worth. Okay, so as an example, I think everyone's time is worth at least $50 an hour. So me looking at the time that I spent with my brother's dog, I think that costs $35,000 a year to have a basic dog. If you think about, you spend 2 hours a day with your dog, playing with your dog, taking care of it, going on a couple walks, that's 2 hours gone. At $50 an hour, that's $100 a day, right? But this is the most important part, because I want to ask people if they had some improvements here. Okay, if every hour you work is $50 an hour, you don't need to work that many hours, right? You can work 5 hours, make your $250 for the day, spend the rest of the day with your dog. The reason why I bring this up is twofold. One, understanding your time when you're on eBay, and the second part, understanding the cost of distraction. And Sally, I'll get to you just one. I'm almost done with my rant. Every distraction costs on average 17 minutes. I'm sorry, 20 minutes. So that means each time you pick up your phone or somebody bothers you or something, right? Your dog whines and you leave your workstation to go help it. You lose $17 because you lose 20 minutes every single time a distraction happens. So hopefully, if you're in this group, you learn to remove a lot of distractions and you add all that money back in. And that way you can get your 4 or 5 hours of productivity a day that you want. You can take the 12 hours a day to do whatever you want on top of that. So that's just me noticing other people, what they do with their time compared to what they do with my time. And the people who have it all, pets, family, 4 kids, Sarah Blakely, billion-dollar net worth, 4 kids, everything, the hours that they work, they're making thousands of dollars an hour or millions of dollars an hour. They still have the same 24 hours a day. They've increased how many widgets they sell per hour. And that's the name of the game. That's why we're on this call right now. You can do whatever you want. I'm just thinking, if your time is worth $50 an hour and you spend 2 hours a day with your dog, that's $36,000 a year if you were working at the same time. But nobody, I mean, how many people here work 18 hours a day, make $50 the whole time? That's $3,600 a day. Nobody needs that much money. But just want you to understand true cost of your time and distractions. And I want to ask people today if they've reduced any distractions in their life, how they get more widgets per hour. And Sally, you got a comment or question? Go ahead.
Are we supposed to phrase this in the term of a question? If so, I'll play Jeopardy. What I'm trying to say is that only is true if the time you are employing petting your dog is time that you would otherwise be listing.
That's true.
So if it's time that I'm, staring off into space, then petting my dog and staring off the space are a net. But if you're saying that it's time that you want to be working and you're petting your dog instead, then I agree that your time is only worth what you're willing to do with it. So so repurposing unproductive time is not a negative to your earning, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's what the whole point of this group is. I was talking to my wife yesterday about what is the point of my group? Why am I meeting with people in the morning? Right? We could all be sleeping right now. Why are we talking right now? Because I honestly want people to get more out of their day. I want to get more out of my day. That's why I'm here. I'm listening to other people do stuff. I'm always learning. People said that I could go to a brewery and learn more about reselling. I could go walk my dog and I'd learn about reselling. Like I just relate everything back to how to become more efficient in my day, do more. The last 5 years for me has been insane. I got married. I've never lived with somebody before. I've never had a baby before. Like I bought a condo. I got a house. There's been like we had a pandemic. The last 5 years has been insane, but every single year, the last 5 years, I've sold more widgets per week. So I mean, that's the question I really want to answer. So like, if I ask Topher, are you selling more widgets per week this year than last year, and why? Why are you selling more widgets per week, or are you?
I am consistency and just higher volume. I know more. I've learned more about what to source and how to list it.
Why are you more consistent this year?
Because I want to be. Um, yeah, I mean that's really it.
So do you think you're not necessarily working harder, but getting more productivity done per hour, or how does it?
Absolutely. I think like a year ago, I was working like 14 hours a day and paying for gas, and that was pretty much it. So now I work, 8 to 10 hours, and I'm making a ton of money.
So okay, that's
Efficient and productive with my time.
Are you making more in the 8 to 10 hours now than the 14 hours before?
Yes.
Okay, so I that's the name of the game, guys. We want to know why, and usually, as odd as it sounds, it's not something you did, it's being more consistent. And being more consistent translates to everything changing. So widgets per hour is the name of the game. That's why we're on this call, is widgets per hour. James, what's going on? Next year, since you're balancing YouTube and reselling and other things, how do you think about more widgets per hour? Or sorry, let me back up the question a little bit. How do you, James, do more widgets per week and more YouTube per week, since you have two goals?
Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, actually. My listing goal is going up to 20 a day from the 1st of January. There's lots of things I've learned this year in the group, a lot of things that have been said that have really rung true with me. Your comment about doing eBay part-time, and a lot of people who are doing eBay full-time are putting in part-time effort, and I'm definitely one of them. I've been there this year. I've been coasting. So I think upping my listing goal is going to help me have to become more consistent and more disciplined with my time. But what I've been trying to do recently is actually still coming into the Zoom calls, but I've had the camera off a lot more of the time. And I have found I get distracted less, because I think sometimes when your camera's on, it kind of gives the impression that you're there to chat. And when I have my camera off, you get disturbed less. So that's not anyone else, but it's a thing for me. I've been trying to actually get more work done. But yeah, next year with regards to YouTube, because I want to grow the channel as well, I'm looking at whether I could do all of my eBay listings in 2 days and actually go full steam ahead for 2 days and draft all the listings for the rest of the week, which then allows me 5 extra days where I can source and spend some time doing YouTube as well. So I'm just thinking about new ideas, Chris, to be honest with you. But something that Landon said probably about a month ago in the group now, where he said, I'm sick of just floating. I don't want to just float anymore and just get by. I really want to grow. And that rung true with me, because at the moment I can go to each month, I can pay my bills. We have a reasonably good life. We can afford things, but I don't just want to be mediocre. That's not why I'm working. I want to be great. So upping the listing goal, being a bit more disciplined with my time, and probably being a bit more selfish with my time as well.
So James, this is good, and I want to talk about this for just a moment. Because I've done this exercise what you've done before, where essentially what I did was I batched a couple days of reselling in the one day. So as an example, right now I get a lot of most of my reselling happens Tuesday through Thursday. And I switched to last week. I tried this. I tried making all my YouTube videos for the whole week on Monday.
Mhm.
Here's the thing though, it happens. So this week, yesterday, I released my first like whole day of YouTube when the video ended up being like an hour instead of 10 minutes. And because this is essentially the whole week of videos in one video. The thing is, the widgets per hour did not go up. I just rearranged it.
Mhm.
So this next year I need to change that personally because 2 years ago, when I added an editor, I made more videos and each video was better. So that's the equivalent of listing more and higher quality items.
Yeah.
This year, though, me moving all my videos to Monday did not increase. Like it might be better, but the volume is lower. So I need to think of other ways to increase the widgets per week because I essentially am not making more money or being more productive. I just rearranged it, which is one nice thing about reselling because I'm gonna have another baby in April and I'm gonna have to move this call. Like this call already is interrupted at the end by Natalie, so I need to change it so that it's not interrupted. So because like I want to give people my full attention, and really it's not because like around this time she wakes up and I'm not really fully focused. So I'll have to think about when to do it. But a lot of times what we do as solopreneurs or entrepreneurs is we rearrange things, but the productivity doesn't go up.
Mm.
And you got to think about, can you produce more videos per week? Could you produce higher qualities for videos per week? Can you resell more items per week? And can the quality go up also? Rearranging is nice, but I've been doing that now for 6 months. I haven't increased the number of widgets. I've just been in a holding pattern, which is okay, but just something to think about.
Chris, can I ask you a question while we're on the subject with regards to that? Is there there must be people, I was speaking to Jen about it the other night after the UK call, but is there anyone in the group who does that, who does a high number of listings in the space of a day or two because they work it alongside another job? So for instance, I know if I had another job and eBay was my part-time gig,
Yep.
I would probably be a lot more productive on eBay and get a better output than what I'm getting now because I haven't got that. We always speak about that cut-off time, but for me, that all depends on when the wife finishes work, which she gets home about 7 o'clock in the evening. So effectively, I could be down here 12 hours a day and no one's there saying to me, James, you need that cut-off. Where I'll use Mark as the example. When Mark was doing his other job, he was still getting all his eBay done because he had to do it in a certain amount of time. So does anyone kind of binge like maybe, I don't know, 100 or 200 listings in 2 or 3 days because they've got to do it?
I think all the people in the group that are silent, that's what they do because most people have a full-time job. So they're only doing it Saturday or Sunday. And for myself, I'm currently doing all of my listing and selling Monday and Friday. And I'm thinking about opening a Poshmark closet. There's only a couple ways I can approach it. So hopefully this is useful for everyone in the group. I can either do it for an hour a day, because I can always squeeze in another hour of something, or I could do one dedicated day and crush it. There's no other way to do it. You can't like, I guess okay. I would like people in the group to increase their intensity and get it all done. Like for me, when I have the dog, I like to feed the dog, walk the dog, take care of the dog, bath, whatever you do. I do it all in one dog sitting. Like I'm not gonna spread out the 2 hours of dog work, with the exception of a walk, throughout the rest of the day. I think a lot of people stretch out 10 listings into a whole day affair. So for you, it might make total sense for you to knock out all your listings in 1 or 2 days. I mean, that's It's honestly easier because you're like, I have Thursday. That's the only time this week I can do it. And you have to do it. If you have to do it, you get it done. If you don't have to do it, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it next year. I mean, because I'm doing my 24-hour listing stream, which is a week's worth of listings in 24 straight hours, it's going to really show me whether, one, it's possible, and two, whether I want to do it over the course of 2 days. So high intense eBay listing for 2 days, concentrate on packing. It's very similar to what Tech was saying with regards to the potential of his hat store. You know, he wants to get all his hats done in one go, and then the rest of the week he doesn't have to worry about eBay apart from customer service and packing.
Yeah.
And that sounds to me like a good place to be. But is it possible on the long term? I don't know until I try. So you've probably tried it, Chris. You can probably tell me the answer straight away to say no, it's not possible long term, or it is, you know.
How many people in the group have a goal of less than 210 items a week? I was asked that. Because if you did what we did in the group, you could do 210 in one day. It would take probably 15 hours. Wait, how long is that? Let me see. 210 divided by 15 is 14 hours. You could work one 14-hour day and take 6 days off. So,
and it's not even time off necessarily. You know, I look at that time and it wouldn't be a case of, right, for the other 5 days, I put my feet up and do nothing. You know, that'd be nice. But I'm still going to be doing sourcing, still going to be doing YouTube, still going to be doing the customer service and packing and stuff. And also on top of that, still going to be working to build a draft bank. But I don't know whether the mentality of me at the moment where I'm on 14 listings and I get my 14 done a day, whether that for me is the end point of my day. And why does it have to be the end point of my day? I don't know whether I need to look at my target to say 20 is the minimum I get up today compared to 20 is the end goal. Maybe that's it. It's a mentality shift of that.
yeah, I think it's just the commitment that you have that's your new baseline. So if you do your goal is 14 a day, the way I would look at it is, how do you arrange it so that you can do 15 a day? Like right now what you're doing is trying to figure out how to fit it in, but then over time you'll think about how to increase the capacity, which is what this call is for. Because I got stuck in rearranging income. Like the analogy that I have is, I'm raking leaves from one side of the lawn to the other side, and then raking them back.
Yeah.
And then raking them into the center. But I'm not getting any work done. So somehow, because it's interesting, right? Most of the people in the group have a goal of less than 210 a week, and you could do that in one day. And you have 6 more days to either do that 6 more times and do what Tech did and make millions of dollars, or you could, I mean, you're right, you don't have to stop working. That's just kind of like a made up thing that people do. Like, okay, that's it, timer's off, no more family. Okay, timer's off, no more whatever. It's interesting. You don't have to. But yeah, schedule routine. That's how you get more. So James, this year, did you make any improvements, or what were the big changes?
I mean, the obvious one I could speak about not reselling is YouTube. That's been a big thing now because I've added something that could potentially turn into a good secondary income if I continue to grow that. So I'm immensely proud of that. But for me, the scheduling and consistency, the start of the year, I was not consistent. I'll list 5 this day, I'll list 10 this day, 12 this day, 2 this day. Oh, I won't list, it's a Sunday. And now I've got that consistency there. And jumping up to 20 doesn't scare me, because I was speaking to Mark this morning about it as well, or might have been yesterday. I could do 20 items. Like, I could do 20 items really. If I get my mind to it, I could do 20 items in an hour, maybe an hour and a half. But why do I not do 50 items in 4 hours? Because I always sort of hit the 20 and then kind of say, right, that's it, working day done. anything else is a bonus now. So it's a mindset shift for me where I need to say, no, 20 is the baseline. But look, it's only 9 o'clock in the morning. You've got the rest of the day now where you can do X more percent, really. So, yeah. So this year's been a good year, but I haven't made more than I made the year before on eBay. But that was partly because of the back end of a COVID year when I was selling Nintendo Wii consoles for over £100 and picking them up for, £5-10 for a bundle. So I kind of expected that. But I think the key for me, and the key word I've used even in the UK call, is there's going to be no excuses next year. I'm going to hit that listing target of 20 a day every single day next year without fail, where beforehand I didn't hold myself accountable enough.
So, okay, James, I have an idea. And I hope Topher is still here. So what happened to Topher was last year he was doing 14 hours a day of work. And then this year he did 8 to 10 hours a day of work and did made more money during the 8 to 10 than the 14. I wonder if that is the goal. So like we have to think about, how do I do more items in less time?
Mhm.
Because I think that the same items in less time doesn't have the same effect. Or the same items, but the schedule is different. Somehow you need both. Like, you know how we have the saying that we want to increase our reselling store and also raise our bank account. So that means if you buy something for $10 and you sell it for $21 profit, then you can buy 2 items to resell and you put $1 in your bank account. I think that with you and with all of us in here, because everyone in here keeps thinking about adding things, I think you need that time margin too, because from my experience, when you grow your listing goal and something goes wrong, it takes longer to fix because you have so many more things to do. Like Mandy might be a good example. Mandy, what's up?
Yeah, it's so funny. I had a conversation with Michelle this week, and I said, some of the new people in the group were talking, and I said, it was so interesting when I joined. It was like July, like a year and a half ago. And you were doing like these crazy spreadsheets all about timing us and efficiencies and like improving.
Yeah.
And like, it'd be interesting to go back and do that, even as somebody who's done it, like to go back and revisit my processes again. And there's so many new people who haven't done that. And
Yep.
It was just a fun exercise. We did it for a couple of months. And like, I improved so much efficiencies and how much I could produce in those hours, in a certain amount of hours a day. I kind of miss that module you did. I don't know. I just thought I'd let you know.
I think that's good because when that time, I remember that time really well. So when that time of this happened, essentially that's when my daughter was born. I had 2 people, and essentially all day I was like watching them and watching myself. I'm like, okay, how many widgets per hour? And it ended up being 15 per hour. That's why my listers had a goal of 105 a day. So this is pre whatnot.
But it'd be interesting now if you redid it. Could we get
yeah.
to 16 or 17 now?
Yeah, it's interesting.
And then even the new people who are new to the group, because you have so many more, like there was only I think like 700 of us or something when I joined.
Yep.
And now you're at what?
Yep.
Crazy number.
Yep.
That didn't go through that. Like they could go rewatch all those calls. That's a zillion million calls. Because of the daily calls.
I think we start that experiment again with timing your widgets per hour, because that's I've never thought of that time bank, because of course the buying one and being able to list 2 the next time and putting some money in the bank, that concept has really transformed what I do. And also the reason why it works for me is the buy cost is so low, but the reason why it works for Tech is his Rolodex is so high. Does that make sense, guys? If you're buying something for $10 and you sell for 30 plus shipping, you're making a lot of money and you're banking a lot of money. And that's because his knowledge base is so large. But for me, my buy cost is so low. I don't need to sell for very much money to put money into the bank and do that. But that's not like, that's a different way of doing it. If I did what Tech does and was have a buy cost of $2 and selling stuff for over 30. Now it's even more dramatic, but it works the same with your time. When we a year and a half ago were timing, and this is because I was not sleeping because I had a newborn. So I was thinking about, guys, we need to sell as many things as possible so I can go home and go to sleep. So, and at that time I was making all my own YouTube videos. That was an insane time, timing everything, doing everything myself. But yeah, I think that's the idea. Well, let's ask Catherine. Catherine, do you sell more things per hour now? I think you do. Pretty dramatic from last time. Beginning of
Yeah, I definitely do.
what-
I sell more on average just per day than I did a year ago. A year ago, I was maybe selling 4 or 5 a day on average, more on the weekend. Sometimes I'd have a Tuesday or Wednesday when I didn't sell anything. And now I'm fairly consistently selling 15, 16 items a day.
But do you think, or let me ask another question. Are you spending more time on eBay?
No, I'm spending less time on eBay. So definitely I've improved the processes that I do. I've become more efficient. And that gives me the opportunity to increase the number of listings I do so that I can increase my money, basically my income.
So we have not actually covered this topic ever in the history of this call, which is, yes, of course, I always talk about how what we do makes us more money per week, but more money per week and you're working less. Like, I mean, we talk about this, but it hasn't been as crazy of a thought to me as banking time.
Yeah. And as a teacher, you can work harder and harder and harder. You're not earning any more money. You're putting in more time and you're just not getting any more out of it than if you just sat with your feet up on the desk, So having a job that you're in control of the money that comes in, you're in control of your time. And that's a hard thing. It's easier when somebody says, you have to take your kids to lunch at 12:18, that exact time. That's when your kids have to line up for lunch. That's easy because you just look at a clock and you go. But when you're in charge of your time, it's much harder to say you have to get 30 listings done by 11:45. You have to get your shipping done by 10. It's much more difficult. So that's been the biggest learning curve for me, is just managing my time. But I've also discovered that I have more things I want to do in my spare time. And when I was so busy teaching full time and then doing eBay part time, I didn't have any time for anything extra. I couldn't spend more time with my kids. I couldn't paint. Now that I have some free time, I'm like, I want more of it. I want to be able to do those things more.
Yeah, that's an unusual byproduct of the people who earn the most money have the most time. You would not think that, right? Because you think, oh wow, rich people are miserable. Here's the thing that might be weird. They might be miserable because they're not doing anything. On the grind while they were growing and learning how to do things, they were probably pretty happy. But once you outsource everything and you own 20 apartment complexes and now you don't need to work anymore, maybe you commit suicide. Because that happens. People get there and there's nothing more to live for. Like that happened to the place where I bought my wedding ring. The guy had run that shop for 56 years. And then 2 days after he closed the shop, he died. Maybe that was his thing. So everyone builds this thing up. And then once you leave because people's identity comes from working. And if you're doing a really good job, you're going to feel really good about yourself. And if you're not doing a very good job, I think it'd be difficult to feel good about yourself if your vocation was bad.
And I came to the realization, because my husband works all the time. He's gone a lot. He cannot sit down and not work. It's very difficult for him, but he's getting older, so it's harder on his body to work and work and work. And he complains about how tired he is. But and then he complains about, well, we're never going to be able to retire. Well, we've met with our financial advisor. We'll retire just fine and leave money to our kids. But I came to the realization the other day that I think he's afraid to retire because he doesn't know what he would do with his time. He doesn't know if he'll be busy enough or work enough, because that's just he's a worker. That's all he does. And that's kind of his identity.
Yeah. Let's go to Matt. Matt, what's up?
I think this is a great topic. And I think what you're saying about like people who are normally busy, like to stay busy, or people who lose their identity. When you mentioned that, I just thought of like the astronauts, like when they went to the moon the first time, and like their life afterwards was not the same. But back to efficiency, I think that blocking time off is a huge thing that I know I want to work on next year, because I'll kind of get scatterbrained and allow myself to go do other stuff. But when I block the time off, like then it's easy, then I can streamline it. And so now, like every morning before the call, I spend an hour or 45 minutes to an hour just taking pictures, nothing else. And it's helped me become more effective in a few weeks.
When you say, like, astronauts are so wild to me, because when you look at what they have to do, like day in the life of an astronaut, there's like they have to be an engineer, they have to, like, they repair all the things, do all the things, collect all the data. There's no way you come back from that and then go back to civilian life. Like, what is that? It's so interesting. Like,
And I was being specific about the moon landing. Like
Yeah.
once they did that, it was like the pinnacle. There's like, so we
Yeah.
always strive for a little bit more, but
Yeah.
how do you do more than that when you're the only person who's ever stepped foot on the moon? So there was a lot of hard times for them afterwards, from what I've heard.
I mean, look at Tech, right? He's doing 250 listings a day. What is the point of 251? There's no one even doing that. It's just like his own potential. So maybe the grind for him, it was more enjoyable going from 150 to 250 than at this point, 250 to 500. Does that really bring anything different? The pinnacle, yeah, that pinnacle is really interesting. Yeah, that's why. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, I have a lot of people's goals this year is to increase one listing a week or one listing a month. And talking, I was thinking, and with Mandy and you guys talking, and what about timing yourself and then work on decreasing a minute a week or a minute a month? I think that's a good goal to go along in that.
But well, Mandy said, all you have to do is time yourself once and you'll think of ways to improve it. Because it's like, you can't help yourself. Right? Like as an example, on this call, I was thinking it's actually a better use of our time if like 10 people submit like something that happened to them. Like Max is like, hey guys, good morning. Yesterday I timed myself listing and shipping, and I found out that I can make my shipping faster if I move all these supplies to this part of the desk. And I found out I can list faster if I discontinue pants and I only sell tops. So now I'm only sell tops. My process is better. Like if 10 people presented that, because when people are talking, they usually talk for 2 minutes, and I usually talk for 7 minutes. So that's the part that I'm working on, is thinking about timing. But yeah, Max, everything that gets measured gets improved. That's the bottom line. Everything that gets measured gets improved. If you want to improve your money, all you have to do is keep track of it. Let's see. For those of you that are in the other Zoom room, if you guys have any questions, you can ask them in the Zoom room and I'll answer them live on YouTube. let's see. Yeah, I just think about widgets per hour and less hours. You have to do both because the emergencies are bigger. Yeah, just like when Tech was saying you should have a year's savings for your business. I don't know if he said that, but that struck me as something that you should have. Like you shouldn't have your workers worried about if there's work. They operate differently. Survival mode is different than get it done. And also, Catherine was saying, when you work for a job and they say at 7:18 you do this, how come when you work for yourself you can't do that? Or what makes it so much harder? I know it's harder. I'm just wondering, is it because, does it have to be harder? We just invent in our mind that it's okay if we don't do it at 7:18? But at a job, it's not okay if you don't?
Yeah, it's that accountability thing. Just like Michelle said last night on her call, just like I've been telling people my goals, like throwing them out there and being accountable. And then if we start doing things like we're talking about, like I think I'm definitely gonna start doing that, timing my things and then coming back to the group and talking about them. Mark's been helping me with that in the morning, and like, but doing it on a more regular, consistent basis, so you can see the improvements over time.
Brandon is saying you can't fire or won't fire yourself. I mean, I find it amusing. I guess I do find it amusing that sometimes people get fired out of their own company. If you look at like Pandora as an example, my wife used to work for Pandora. The CEO grew it to a certain point, and then they fired him. They're like, you can't grow, you don't have the skills to grow the company anymore, so you can't work here. So it's like Catherine could say to Catherine, thank you for getting me to 20 listings a day, but you're fired. You're not the person that can get the 30 listings a day. We need a different person. So then Catherine would have to wear a hat and a different outfit and come in as Rovina and get that work done. You have to be a different person. I mean, we talked about this a few times today. Your identity needs to change. Maybe Catherine can't do it, but Rovina can. Beth?
Please not Robina.
The other thing though is it's like a skill gap, right? Like I'm
That's true.
60 and what the people that are 20 know how to do technologically, I don't know how to do. And I could learn it, but it would take me a while. But young people know more things. Do I need to go out and learn the newest thing? Or can I hire somebody who can do the after 20, do this, and I can go and move on to something else that I already have the skill for, like replicate it or move into something else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't need to be everything. The CEO of a company can't do every job anymore. They hire experts.
No, that's really good, Beth. Please remember what Beth just said in the skill gap. The skill gap is how you improve your listings per hour. So right now you can see Neil in the back taking pictures. If he thinks, okay, how can he improve the skill of staging, steaming, improving? That's what gets you more listings per hour. Somebody's asking if I've started doing Amazon FBA. I have about 40 items at Amazon, and I'm only doing FBA now. So it's not on my list of things to do next year. I just want an active Amazon account. I'm not doing that. Poshmark is actually higher than my Amazon goals right now because I'm just trying to figure out a reselling process of, I think it would be useful for people to see me do what James was talking about and get all my listings done in one day or squeeze out an hour every day to get my listings up. So Hanley is going to be doing more planning next year and overthinking less. Yeah, I love that. What are you going to do next week and how? So if I tell Brian, next week you're going to do 5 more listings per day so that you have an extra 35 items in your draft bank to start the year off. Not the whole year, but just next week, you're going to do 5 more listings per day so you can have 35 listings in your draft bank. How? Or I guess I could ask Brian that right now. Brian, if you needed to list 5 more items next week to start your new year off with an extra 35 draft bank, how would you do that?
Well, I like what Henley said, the overthinking. I think that's we talk about squirrel brain and different things. I think that's my issue, is overthinking things. Where going back to 10x, action is the like as a teacher, you know, we would get TEKS or objectives that the student would have to learn. And like for English, there were like 40 different ones, and each one would typically have 3, 4, 5 subsets. So there were literally hundreds of things you're responsible for teaching. And when you would unpack those TEKS or those objectives, the shortcut was to look at the verbs, the action. And I tend to overanalyze and get stuck in my head too much. And I think the key is action. So tying that into your question, it would just be the action, just to do it. I do know sometimes once I hit my listing goal at the end of the day, like I just want to be done. I don't want to do those extra 5. And I know it's just a mental thing. It's like, but if somebody was saying you have to, there's that immediacy, right? Like if you don't, like what Catherine was saying, if you don't have your kids at lunch at a certain time, you're going to get in trouble. It's going to be pretty immediate. But for us as resellers, there is no immediacy. Like if I don't do those extra 5, it's not going to hurt me today. It may not hurt me next week, next month. It may be a while. So I don't know. I don't, it's action. It's just doing it. And it's like, you gotta fool yourself. And for me, it's getting out of my head and just checking it off on the box. I will say, like the daily clicker has helped me create my consistency, but maybe I need to up that daily listings plus X amount in the draft bank. Kind of what Max was saying, that accountability. Accountability does really help.
I love it. So someone in the chat is asking, they just fired their first employee this week. Do I have any advice to hire consistent staff? Yes. So I think that depends on where you live, but the wage that you pay has to make your job number 1. If your job is number 2, like Caleb's says, I want someone for just Saturday and Sunday for 4 hours. That person's not going to be as consistent as I want a Monday through Friday employee, W-2 employee with a couple benefits. That's going to get you way more consistent people. If you can do the I do it, you do it, let's do it together method of training, and they can watch you do it, and they see your skill and how you do it, you're going to have a way more consistent staff than you figure it out. This is your goal. That does not work. You're going to have huge turnover, because for creative work, it costs a lot more. But for widget work, where you do the same thing over and over again, that's the only way to afford help. You can't afford somebody that does it differently every time. It's too hard. Brian was talking about the clicking, positive reinforcement. I like that. Also, my brother has a Bosu ball, and I really like using that this week. That's a cool fitness tool. Like burpees suck, but doing a burpee with a Bosu ball is easier, and I feel like gets me in the right mood to do that, because it's like a burpee is so difficult to just go from cold. But people mentioned Jocko in the chat too. Like he'll do 25 burpees in the middle of the day to recharge himself, and that's awesome. Also, people were asking if we have support for Amazon in the group. We do. We have one of the largest Amazon sellers in the group, Brad, and then also Jack does a dedicated Amazon/video game call on Fridays at 4 p.m. Pacific. And he's been doing that call for almost as long as we've been doing the group. So Jack is very, very knowledgeable on Amazon and video game selling. Let's see here. Brian says burpees are considered the most efficient exercise. Yeah, I think that me trying to do it with the Bosu ball is like the equivalent of trying to use a VA. It's not necessary. Overcomplicating it. You can do a burpee for free with no equipment. So Hanley is saying that this group is sometimes overwhelming because there's so much information. I agree with that. So I really only pick a couple things to try. I listened to a lot of the calls Tech listens to all the calls, but he'll only implement one thing a year. If that makes anyone feel better. Tech listens to thousands of ideas and implements one a year. Grady's asking if it's harder for tall people to do burpees. Maybe. I know that when you have longer arms, there's a greater distance traveled. I don't know if it's harder though, because I think taller people have more leverage too. So, can you imagine listening to all these calls all year like Tech does, and then also makes the least number of changes, right? Just listens to it and kills it. So, Isaiah, are you here early? He might be. Let me see. He is. Isaiah. Yeah. I guess we can chat about that for a moment. Usually I don't talk about my business, but the last video I did that for a whole hour. So I don't know what the reception is for people in the group, but I've been posting like tips and improvement videos all year, but I'm going to switch to next year, just doing like one super big video per week with the tips and tricks and what I'm actually doing in my business, because it's really hard to do it and talk about it. But if I can condense it to one day, I think I'll be able to go over brand knowledge, category knowledge, how to improve it. Aaron is asking if I'm stacking cash for a market crash. I am stacking cash for a market crash. I'm hoping that next year I can learn a little bit about real estate and maybe purchase my first rental property. So hopefully the real estate market crashes a little bit. I also want a van, a minivan. So hopefully the car market crashes too, because I don't want to overpay for a van. And after renting a car, guys, it was $100 to rent a car to drive from San Diego to San Francisco, essentially. That blew my mind. I was like, why would I ever use my own car? That's so cheap. And it was like, it had all the crazy rate hike because 6,000 flights were canceled. Oh, that's right. Aaron is saying tons of car repossessions in the pipeline. I think so. That's a great point. Because maybe they don't make a lot of cars in 2023, but maybe a lot of cars get repoed. Oh yeah, James, van life does sound cool, but now I want to rent the van. I don't want to buy it. I think getting a Winnebago or Airstream for a month would be cool, but owning one, there's a lot of overhead with that. Landon saying Sienna. So Sienna is my top choice, but I don't understand the options. I want one where the second row folds flat, and I don't think Toyota does that. I think I need like a Chrysler, Pacifica. I think those vans, both rows fold flat. That's what I want, a both rows fold flat minivan.
Yeah, we got one, Chris, like when I was doing storage units, the Chrysler Town and Country, it's called Stow and Go. Both seats fold flat. So other than the two front seats, you can have it totally flat all the way back, and it holds a lot of cargo.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Let me look up the Prius. Oh, so that's interesting. The Toyota Prius has 50 cubic feet of cargo space, and I find it, yeah, 50 cubic feet. But a van has around 150 cubic feet, so a van should have 3 times as much cargo room as a Prius. In California, the top 5 cars are Model Y Tesla, Model 3 Tesla, RAV4, Camry, Prius. In Texas, the top 5 cars are all trucks. It's interesting, like how different our country is. The Corolla crossover is a cool car. It's I don't know what purpose it serves because it's not roomy. It's not a hybrid, or maybe it is, but it doesn't get the best fuel economy. It's smaller. It's expensive. So I think used minivan.
Aren't Toyotas like the most targeted for stealing and
Yeah,
breaking
because
into?
the emissions require a really nice catalytic converter. So they're the most targeted crime car. Hondas are the most stolen. Toyotas catalytic converters are the most stolen. The Toyota Tundra, or the trucks and the cars. Somebody just got busted for $54 million worth. So someone was putting in work. Guys, the thieves are putting in work. $54 million is a lot. Okay, that's a lot of crime. They got a lot of crime per hour. Lots of crime per hour. 54 million is a lot. That's like $1 million a week, guys. That's 10,000. What is that? Oh, I guess if you do the math, that's 1,000 catalytic converters a week, guys. That is very efficient.
He's doing way better than I am.
They're probably in this group.
I,
Probably in this group. They're listening to Mandy right now. How many catalytic converters can we steal in an hour? Time it.
I used to work at a junkyard and cut off Cadillac converters. That's no joke. Like that's work right there. So they're putting in work. It's hard work too.
They're putting in work. That's what I mean. The thieves are putting in work. Your daughter's Prius converter was still, I mean. Yeah, that's true. We also have a car parts call. So let me go over our calls real quick while we're on YouTube. Okay, we have another question while I'm pulling that up. Dawn is listing 7 to 10 items a day, and she lives in an apartment with no space. How can you do more with the same space? So there's only 2 ways to do that. You can only have the option of selling your items faster, or selling more expensive items for higher profit. So my worker has a 200 item store and an $80 ASP, and she has a full-time job working for, she works for me, and she lives in an apartment. So she can't really have more than 200 items. So she's just going to increase her ASP to 100. Yeah, it's work. The thieves here, I mean, pretty much there's no drugstores here. They've all closed. CVS, Walgreens, because there's too much crime. You can shoplift $900 here with no penalty. So makes it hard to own a brick and mortar here. Oh, Catherine is saying you can also niche down to smaller items like cards or jewelry. That's true. So quick overview of the calls, guys. I do this Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock in the morning. This room is 24 hours a day. We have a beginner call that starts right now at 7 in the morning with Isaiah. Michelle does a women's clothing call. Linda does a antique/jewelry call. Cheryl does bookkeeping every other week. Jack does the Amazon call and video games. And there's lots of 7 and 8 figure Amazon sellers in our group. We have book club on Monday with Sarah and Brian, toy talk with Mike, shoe talk, media, or the shoe calls on Tuesdays, the toy calls on Mondays, the media calls on Thursdays. We have a call about Whatnot, Poshmark, and Mercari, a jeans call, a call for the UK, a call for Australia, and a call about building your social media, and finally a call about car parts. So 16 calls.
You forgot Michelle's clothing call.
And Michelle's clothing call. But yeah, widgets per hour. It is weird because we have the same conversation every single day. Thanks, guys. I'll see you guys on the other call later. It is weird to have the same topic every day. Oh yeah, text call on Tuesday. Did he put that in his list? Let me see. Oh, it is. Yeah. So text call on Tuesday, talk with the greatest reseller of our time at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That goes until all questions are answered at any level. Thank you, Isaiah. Also, today we're recording the podcast because I was unavailable yesterday traveling, and the $99 tier coaching call is also tonight. I'm going to release the secret podcast right now on Patreon. And so you guys can listen to that before we come out with the podcast as scheduled tomorrow again. Let's see. Isaiah, you ready? All right. Thank you,
Dude, I
YouTube. We'll see you
swear.
guys tomorrow.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Dude, I thought you guys were ignoring me, dude. I'm
Oh.
like, dang, are y'all just tired of hearing me talk? I understand.